Good afternoon, everyone. We are joining you for the funeral services for fallen officer from the Fargo Police Department, Jason Mosier. I'm Mike Morgan.
And I'm Lisa Beddoe. People have been filing into Shields Arena along 32nd Avenue South. The arena holds upwards of 6,000 people. Easily a couple thousand in attendance could be law enforcement.
Now, we're not sure exactly how long the funeral will last. Our coverage will continue from start to finish, and that could mean an hour, maybe two, maybe longer. And following the funeral, we will also have coverage of the processional involving numerous law enforcement vehicles and officers from all over the region, the country, and even Canada.
Officiating today's funeral is Reverend Kevin Kloster. He is a former police chaplain with the Fargo Police Department. And of course, we are taking a live look of the funeral services about to start right now inside Shields Arena.
The presentation of colors happened just a moment ago, and that is the first item on the schedule for today's funeral. And if we go down the bulletin and follow that, we are now watching as the processional is about to begin.
Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. And those who live and believe in me will never die. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. I died, and behold, I live forevermore. Because I live, you also will live. You may be seated. My name is Kevin Kloster, and prior to 7 months ago, I moved away, and up until that time, for the last 5 years, I had been the chaplain for the Fargo Police Department. And so I had known Jason in that capacity, and had ridden with Jason on many occasions. One day I opened up my email, and there inside my email was a message from some lady named Rachel. And so I read through it, and it says, you don't know who I am, and I don't know who you are, but you are the police chaplain, and I am madly in love with this guy called Jason Mosier. And I want to get married. Would you be willing to marry us? And so I was honored to be at the wedding and to get Rachel and Jason hitched. It was a good day. A week ago, Thursday morning, I got another message. The message said that Jason had been shot and that he was not likely to survive. And Rachel wanted me to come back to lead this service and to give honor to Jason. And so I was honored and humbled to accept. And so on behalf of Rachel and her family, thank you, everybody, for being here this day to celebrate and to remember and to give honor to a warrior and a hero, a husband and a father, a son, and so much more. My prayer today is that God will grant us grace, that in pain we may find comfort, in sorrow hope, and in death resurrection. Will you pray with me, please? God, you are our refuge and our strength. You are a very present help in times of trouble. And so we come before you this day because our hearts ache. There is within us an emptiness and a sadness that feels like it will never go away. And so we turn to you, God, in the midst of this storm, in the midst of the darkness, that your light may shine brightly. May we hear from you, God, a word of hope and encouragement. May we find from others around us comfort and strength. May this be a time, God, where we celebrate and honor Jason's life and give thanks to you for the resurrection to eternal life. I pray especially for Rachel and for her family. May your Spirit be with them to undergird them, that they may raise up on wings like eagles, to find the strength that does not come from within, but only comes from you. In the name of the Christ we pray. Amen. At this time, I invite Chief David Todd to come forward to share a few remarks.
Dignitaries, Fargo Police Department brothers and sisters who wear the badge, family members of our officers, community, and most importantly, Rachel and Jason and Rachel's families. Thank you for responding and being our backup on our last call with Edward 143, Officer Jason Mosier. Throughout your career in law enforcement, you respond to calls or make traffic stops where your instincts tell you something isn't right. Something is about to happen, and you better get ready for it. You better get backup rolling toward you. And despite that fear you can feel inside you, you keep it under control. You don't freeze up. You do a quick scan for threats or your areas of cover. You wait for your backup, or you cautiously approach, and you fall back on the skills you've trained on over and over. You're a cop. This is what you're called to do. It's in your blood. And despite the fact that sometimes it's dangerous, scary, or difficult, you wouldn't choose to be anywhere else. That's who Jason Mosier was. Jason was a cop's cop. Jason was our brother, a fellow officer who sometimes went through intense moments during his career with his brothers and sisters in blue. Sometimes he was coming to their call for backup, and sometimes they were responding to his call for backup. Those intense experiences bond you for life to your fellow officers. Jason was a quiet hero who served his country as an Army combat medic and deployed overseas to Bosnia and Iraq. As a combat medic, his mission was to save lives as he was defending our country. As a police officer who served for our department, his mission was similar in some aspects. His mission was to protect and serve our community and use his special skills to save lives. The fact he was a recipient of the Silver Star in our department for bravery and saving lives just goes to show how good he was at carrying out that mission. The night Jason was mortally wounded was another example of his bravery and service to our community. He was responding to help victims of domestic violence and protecting area residents from a dangerous person set on harming others. Jason gave the ultimate sacrifice of his life in that mission of helping others and protecting the community that he had sworn to protect. In Jason's passing, Jason, a police officer, and his wife, Rachel, a nurse, were once again being heroic. Jason's organs were recovered so that others may live or have a better life. It was fitting of what Jason and Rachel exemplified in the mission of their lives, that mission being saving others. I've gotten to spend some time with Rachel and Jason and Rachel's families this week and have been amazed by their graciousness and their strength. Despite their incredible loss, it's often been them that have lifted us up, hugged us, encouraged us throughout this week. We have a hole in our hearts that we don't know how to fill. Jason's no longer there, getting changed into his uniform next to me in the locker room. There's an empty seat in briefing where he sat with his shift. And after today, Edward 143 will be a call sign that will never be assigned again. How do we fill that hole in our hearts? How do we say goodbye to a hero, husband, father, son, and friend? As those waves of emotion hit you unexpectedly when you're sitting in your squad car or at home, I guess we all will have our own ways of trying to navigate through the pain and sadness of saying goodbye, but we'll hold on to each other. Jason loved Rachel. He loved his kids. He loved his family. He loved his fellow officers. He loved being a cop. Perhaps we all can honor Jason's memory by carrying on that love for our families, for our fellow officers, and being the very best that we can be in this noble profession of law enforcement. Thank you for coming from near and far to honor Jason and to be here for his family and for the members of the Fargo Police Department. If Jason could say it, he'd say, "Thanks for the backup."
Hear these words from Ecclesiastes chapter 3. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up what has been planted. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. Last night in a private ceremony with area law enforcement and Rachel's family, we did that. We laughed and we cried and we shared great stories. And it's in those stories that we begin to find healing. And so coming forward today to share some stories with you to help in your healing, to help you know who Jason was as a human being, as a cop, as a friend, Jacob Rude and Drew Schwan.
Greetings, and how blessed we are for each one of you here today. I am Officer Jacob Rude, or as some of you may simply know me as Edward 243. So many of us have stories to tell, and so blessed am I to stand here today and be able to share my story with all of you. While this is going to be really hard, I'd like to tell you about my last day with Jason. This is it. The first thing I said to him on Tuesday. Tuesday was Jason and I's last day working together. We had both known it for some time. In a matter of days, he would be going to the day shift. I was happy for him. He had just told me how he's excited to be able to spend more time with his family. He'd also said he was nervous because he'd never had a day job before. I was also sad and had told him that because I was losing my mentor. I had worked almost every shift with Jason since graduating PTO. We were district partners and now beat partners. That's another District 4 action complete. I always knew no matter how FUBAR a call was, I could look to him for advice. He'd been there and done that. Tuesday started out slow. Jason and I had sat together at the substation looking at computers. His wife wanted one of those all-in-ones. He knew I knew computers, so it was my job to figure it out. I talked him into a laptop. He wanted a computer with 1.21 gigawatts of power. We got distracted and we're now watching Back to the Future clips. We did finally find the right computer though, thanks to Rachel. Later, I chased a suspect alone on foot, eventually arresting him at taser point. Jason had heard my strange shout on the radio as I ran, "I need more squads." Jason was the first one on scene. I was just picking my guy up off the ground in an alley when Jason came up to me and said, "Are you okay?" Later that night, I was working on a credit fraud, and I had called Jason for advice on the report. He answered in our typical sarcastic humor, "Domino's Pizza." Jason always knew the no-nonsense way of doing a report. At the end of the night, we sat together alone at the station, griping as we usually did about something stupid we had dealt with that night. The airing of the grievances, as we called it. Jason stopped and told me how he was worried I would become jaded or grumpy, as people sometimes thought he was. You know, I'm worried about you. You sound too much like me. We laughed. He went on to say I was going to have to step up to fill his shoes on evenings. I don't care how young you are. You know what you're doing. You need to step up now. I laughed it off. He laughed and said, "Rude, I'm serious." As we were walking to our cars in the lot to go home, Jason, walking next to me, said, "Well, Rude, I wish I could say it's been fun." We both laughed. He held out his hand, I took it and pulled it in, and we hugged. "I'm not going anywhere," he laughed. I said, "I know, but I'm still gonna miss you, and I'm still sad." That was the last thing we did and said to each other. Exactly 24 hours later, I was crying and holding his hand in the hospital. I said goodbye once again. He couldn't, but he didn't need to. We'd already done that. That sounds like a movie, but that is reality. That all happened in one day. Life is fragile. Appreciate your life and the life of people you love. Appreciate what is sacrificed for you to live in this society. It's not free, and it's sure not easy.
I'm not sure how to do this. In the nearly 25 years that I knew Jason, we never talked about this. This isn't something that came up. I'd usually text him when he was at work and say, "Be safe," and he'd reply with some sarcastic comment. On the way out here today, we each tell stories, and that just happened naturally if you knew Jason. I was talking to Jason and Rachel's neighbor, and he told me a story. It kind of reminded me of a story, actually, that happened recently this summer. A door-to-door salesman was coming around the neighborhood selling that cleaner stuff that takes rust off the driveway. Jason instantly perked up when he'd see people like that come around. So Jason, after that gentleman came to his door, went to Tyler and Rachel's, their neighbor. Jason escorted this gentleman right up to the door of Tyler and Rachel's. Before the salesman could even say anything, Jason said, "Sorry to bother you, Rachel, but this guy's just here to harass you. Just tell him you're not interested, and I'll escort him out of here." Jason proceeded to escort the gentleman from door to door in the neighborhood until the salesman finally got fed up with Jason. He said he was going to call the cops. Jason agreed that he should do that, while he also called regional dispatch. So "This is Officer Moser with Fargo PD. Yep, he's probably on the other line with with you. Everything is being taken care of." No matter who you talked to, someone had a story like that about Jason. And he was always concerned about the neighborhood, that everyone is taken care of. Some of you may have heard some of these stories before last night, but I think it's important that everyone know who Jason was and how he lived. So Rachel, Dylan, Jolie, Dave, Karen, Brian, and Michelle. I'm not exactly sure how to say everything that could possibly be said about Jason. I'm also not sure that anything I could say could ever bring comfort during this extremely difficult time. I'm certain, though, that every single person here today has been affected by Jason's death in one way or another. I'm only hoping that sharing a few stories of Jason today can bring some light to who he was and how he lived his life. I met Jason after moving to Fargo in 5th grade. I'm not sure how or why, but something about Jason and I just clicked. He only lived about 10 blocks away from me when we were growing up, and his home quickly became my second home. Michelle was a toddler, and Brian kept busy with his Ford Mustang. I remember going over to Jason's to play video games or just hang out. It didn't seem to matter what we did. We always knew that we could count on each other. Most often, elementary friendships seemed to come and go, but not this one. Almost 25 years later, Jason was still my best friend. It had been a pleasure watching his accomplishments throughout life, including his transformation from a bachelor to a devoted husband. There were so many things that Jason had a passion for: his family, his friends, coworkers, motorcycles, bicycles, the 10 of them that he still has in his garage he was restoring, camping, attempting to cook, and his elderly dog, Scooter, a Yorkie. His family would be the first to tell you how sarcastic and blunt Jason could be. If you were expecting Jason to sugarcoat anything, you were talking to the wrong guy. I remember multiple occasions where I'd be doing something a certain way. He'd get that look on his face, throw his hands in the air, and say, "But that's stupid. Just do it like this." And he was usually right. I've spoken to several officers from the department who would describe him in the same manner, but that he's also the first person to put his game face on when it came to helping someone in need. I wasn't surprised at all to hear that Jason just smiled and shrugged his shoulders after receiving the Silver Star for entering a smoke-filled home to help to save the lives of 2 children in 2011. Jason would never think twice about doing something like that. He would have had the same mentality on the evening of February 10th, once again called to help residents of Fargo that needed protection. I truly believe that Jason was in his element that night, but ultimately, this would be his last shift to protect and serve the citizens of Fargo. I think one of our National Guard platoon sergeants, Carrie Buckle, may have said it the best. The large amount of publicity and accolades that Jason is receiving today would bother him greatly. He would understand, but he would prefer that we go out, have a beer or two, and not make a big deal out of this. I couldn't agree more, Carrie. Jason would say that he was just doing his job. Other soldiers we served with said the same about Jason. He wasn't necessarily the guy that had the patience for those that weren't giving 100%. Jason worked hard for the things he accomplished in the military and later his career, and wanted others to do the same. He knew that if he didn't, that others had to work even harder. As most of you may know by now, though, Jason wouldn't let his work define who he was. Jason was a husband to Rachel, a wonderful stepfather to Dylan and Jolie, son to Dave and Karen, a brother to Brian and Michelle, an uncle to several nieces and nephews, and a best friend to many. Jason could convince me, or anyone really, to do or buy just about anything. He should have been a salesman. In fact, I'm sure there are several of you that can relate to what I'm talking about. For instance, it probably started when Jason brought me to a Police Explorers meeting when we were younger, and before I knew it, I was signed up. While we were in high school, he told me how fun it would be to join the Army National Guard. The next thing I knew, we were heading to basic training together, Army medic training together, and finally deploying to Bosnia in 2003. After returning from the deployment in Bosnia, Jason later deployed to Iraq. Several years later, he convinced me that I needed to buy a motorcycle, build a house a block away from him and Rachel, buy a truck, and as long as I had that, why not buy a camper? If you ever have been over to Jason and Rachel's, chances are he tried to get you to move to Sabin too. Early on in Jason and Rachel's relationship, it was obvious that they were meant to be together. You could always see it in Jason's eyes. He loved giving Rachel a hard time and joking around, something she'd eventually learn to expect from him. While we were on vacation in Duluth, Jason became very serious and told Rachel he had to ask her a question. It was a moment we had all been waiting for. Jason got down on one knee and retied his shoe. We should have known better. Not long after this, Jason and Rachel had some professional photos taken together and posted them to Facebook. Big mistake. Officer Lovejoy knew Jason's sense of humor and knew that he could get away with publicly commenting on how cute of an engagement photo it was. Only Jason and Rachel weren't yet engaged. It didn't take very long for comments to start overwhelming Rachel's phone from friends and family wondering why they hadn't heard from her yet. Throughout life together, we knew Rachel was the one for him. It was especially evident when Jason had a tough time getting through his wedding vows without getting pretty emotional. It was easy to see that he meant every word he said. I'm not sure there was a dry eye in the room. Like I mentioned earlier, Jason loved camping with his friends and family. Oftentimes, Jason would be one of the last people up at night while camping because he was used to his evening shift schedule. One late night, Jason mentioned to my wife, Jamie, something she will never forget. He had said, "I don't deserve her. She makes me a better person, and I still don't deserve her, but she's my soulmate." One thing is for sure, he cared about Rachel more than anything, even when she would finish all of his sentences and stories for him. Jason and Rachel would often take Scooter for a walk almost every evening that he was off. But after Rachel had a knee surgery, Jason would have to push her around the neighborhood in a wheelchair. We don't have sidewalks in Sabin, just streets with some pretty steep ditches on the sides. One night, they're out for a walk, and one of the neighbor's little dogs got loose. The dog started barking and running towards Scooter. So what does Jason do? He lets go of the wheelchair and practically dives to the ground to grab Scooter. Next thing you know, Rachel's rolling down the ditch in a wheelchair yelling, "Jason!" So Jason, now holding Scooter, trying to fight off the little dog, ran down in the ditch and grabbed a hold of the wheelchair just as Rachel was starting to tip over. That all happened right in front of her house, and of course a lot of the other neighbors were outside to witness the entire thing. Rachel laughs about it now, but letting her go to save the dog, he never lived that one down. Jason loved to cook for others, even if it did take 4 hours to make something that was supposed to take 30 minutes. Jason always had to check on how the food was coming along, what temperature was like in the pan, and how the food looked each time that he poked at it. Between the ribs smoking in the smoker all day, cooking a specialty that he referred to as the bacon explosion, or his chicken lo mein recipe, he was always cooking something. It was just on February 6th when he made sure to invite us over. He promised that he finally perfected it. He assured me that we would eat dinner before 10 p.m. that night. Sure enough, he was right. It was perfect, although it didn't have to be. He always knew that we would be back for his next attempt. It was always evident how great of a father Jason was. Not only did he take great care of Dylan and Jolie, but it also treated Levi, Allie, and my daughter like his own. He was always so genuine to them and always made sure they were well taken care of. He loved the time that he spent with Dylan, whether it was playing video games on the PlayStation, shooting off fireworks, or just hanging out for the day. Jason would attend gymnastic meets for Jolie, any one that he could when he wasn't working. I'll bet that he was looking down on her this weekend during her meet in Jamestown. She did awesome. He was always so proud of the way she performed at them, often watching her place, both in individual events as well as all around. Jason would always love taking pictures of Jolie during her meets, until he realized that he was taking pictures of the wrong girl. I guess that can happen when they're all blonde-haired girls in the exact same uniform. He knew those routines in and out. In fact, it wasn't out of the question for Jason to recreate Jolie's floor routine, complete with the music, after a couple of drinks at a 4th of July party. This is the same guy who would try and jump into the swimming pool through a tube meant for a child, wedging it around his upper body, requiring a form of extrication to remove it. Jason always had a way of looking out for and protecting his younger sister, Michelle. This would include an interrogation of any potential boyfriend, which she didn't mind. Michelle also knew that Jason didn't have any fear and was very spontaneous when it came to having fun. She distinctly remembers when they were kayaking down the Cheyenne River while camping at Fort Ransom. Without notice, he decides to jump out of the kayak in order to take a swim, nearly dumping Michelle out of the kayak herself. Jason loves spending time with his brother Brian as well, between camping, our annual sausage-making get-togethers, teaching Allie how to shoot, or Levi how to fish. He loves staying busy with those close to him. He was always the first one to jump into the pool and entertain the kids while everyone else would watch. He was always having enough fun for all of us. Jason and Rachel also enjoyed attending many Fargo Force hockey games with Dave and Karen and Mike and Deb. Jason was always a guy that wanted to have people over to his house. He wanted to make sure that his guests were taken care of when he was the host. One of the games that he loved to play in the group setting was Cards Against Humanity. He always thought he was going to win until his mother, Karen, decided to play. We were all shocked, but Karen put us in our place. She won. I don't know how else to say this, but it was an honor to have known you, Jason, and it's an honor to be able to share your story with everyone today. You were more than just a friend. Friends are people who hang out when it's convenient for them. You were family. Someone that would be there through the good and the bad. Someone that I knew I could count on no matter what the reason, even if you would give me a hard time about it later. Jason, thank you for who you were and what you did every day. To every man and woman who puts a uniform on every day, not knowing if or when you will pay the ultimate sacrifice, thank you. Jason, we may not know why you were taken from us so early in your life, but know that you will never be forgotten.
We pray for blessings, we pray for peace, comfort for family, protection while we sleep. We pray for healing, for prosperity. We pray for your mighty hand to ease our suffering, and all the while you hear each spoken need, yet love us way too much to give us lesser things. 'Cause what if your blessings come through raindrops? What if your healing comes through tears? What if 1,000 sleepless nights are what it takes to know you're near? And what if trials of this life are your mercies in disguise? We pray for wisdom, your voice to hear. We cry in anger when we cannot feel you near. We doubt your goodness, we doubt your love, as if every promise from your word is not enough. And all the while you hear each desperate plea, and long that way have faith to believe.
Thank you. Hear these words from 1 Thessalonians in the 4th chapter. We do not want you to be uninformed, brother and sisters, about those who have died, so that you may not grieve as others who have no hope. For since we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so through Jesus, God will bring with him those who have died. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. And from the Gospel of John in the 14th chapter, do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places. And if it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to myself, so that where I am, there you may be also. I will not leave you comfortless. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid. Last Wednesday, when Jason put on his uniform, I suspect he did so thinking that it was going to be a day like most other days. I also suspect that maybe in the back of his mind he was thinking that there's always that possibility that something could go wrong. I mean, after all, being a cop, it's not the safest thing in the world, is it? Like other officers, I'm sure he knew that putting on that uniform meant putting himself in harm's way. That night, Jason responding to a call to help people in need. Gunshots were fired. Jason was struck. It fatally wounded Jason. That shot has changed lives. That shot was a senseless act of violence that cut short Jason's life. As I reflect on that, as you have reflected on that, as I heard Jacob reflect on that, it ought to remind us that life is fragile. The Bible says, you do not know what will happen tomorrow. What is life? It's like a mist. It's here one moment, and then it disappears. The truth of that verse ought to change who we are as human beings. The truth of that verse ought to change how we relate to people. It ought to make us appreciate people more and take people for granted less. If you came here today with somebody that you love, if you're at home watching this and you're with somebody that you love, let me invite you just to reach over and to hold their hand. Put your arm around them. Show them that you love them. And then do that every single day for the rest of your life. Life is fragile. In one short moment, life can end. And in that moment, joy gives way to grief. What happened last Wednesday night has brought profound grief to this community. It has brought grief to Jason's family, to his friends, to the Fargo Police Department, to other agencies that are local, to all of you who came from all over the place. It has caused the Fargo community to grieve. And if I may name what that grief feels like for many of us, I think it's this. We hurt. And there's anger. You may be family, you may not even know Jason. But today there is in the pit of your stomach this ache. It just hurts. There is this pervasive sense of sadness that surrounds us. And I can tell you from personal experience, the only thing that comes easy today are tears. And so I want to encourage you to let the tears flow. This is a safe place. You don't have to be strong in this moment. You can let the tears flow. You can let them out. And you can cry. Because those tears are healing. Those tears, as we let them out, they release the ache. They release the hurt. They release the emptiness. They release the anger that is within us. Every time we let those tears flow, it says, Jason, you mattered to me. Jason, you were someone special to me. Jason, you were a person that I admired and I looked up to. Every time we let those tears flow, it says, I'm sad. I'm sad. And I miss you. And I love you. So let our tears flow from our eyes to form a collective pool at our feet that becomes a monument that honors Jason's life. A little bit ago, you heard from Chief Todd and from Jacob and from Drew a little bit more about Jason's life, and I so appreciate that they were willing to come forward and to share their stories and to help us to know Jason, the person. Jason's no longer with us. Jason's died. His physical presence will no longer be with us. And so what we have are memories. And so every time we remember Jason, we honor him. So may those memories continue. In addition to those memories, I want to share a word of hope with you. The night that Jason died was what those of us who are Christian would call a holy day. It was Ash Wednesday. It was the day that Christians around the world received the mark of the cross on their forehead in ashes. A pastor would say to somebody as they make the sign of the cross with ashes on their forehead, "From dust you came, to dust you will return." The Bible says it like this: the dust will return to the ground from which it came. The spirit will return to God who gave it. See, those are words of hope to me. Because what they say to us, what they say to me is that when we die, when our bodies die, they decompose. They go back to dust from which they came. But our spirit lives on forever. Our spirit returns to be with God. What it says is that death is not the end. That shot did not end Jason's life. It moved Jason from earth to heaven. And I know this to be true because Jesus was the one who said, "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. And those who live and believe in me, even though they die, will live." Those are words of hope. And then Jesus followed up and he said these words to his disciples, to those around him. He said, do you believe this? To believe those words is to live as a person with hope. Because what it means is that death is not the end. It's not the end of a book, it's rather the closing of a chapter. Another chapter begins. Jason is very much alive today. He's just moved from earth to heaven. If you've ever had somebody move away from you, maybe to another town, another state, you know that you grieve when that person leaves you. It hurts. Rachel, Jolie and Dylan and the rest of Jason's family, I know that today is a tough day. I know that the last several days have been tough days. And I know that the weeks to come are going to be tough days. I think Jesus knows it's going to be tough days. It's why Jesus said this. He said, do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. And then a little bit later on, he adds these words. I will not leave you comfortless. I'm coming to you. So let those words soak in as healing salve. Christ will see you through. In those moments when it's just hard to get out of bed in the morning, Christ will see you through. In those moments at night where the place just seems incredibly lonely, Christ will see you through. In those moments where there is resentment and anger, Christ will see you through. In those moments when grief lingers, Christ will see you through. If you just take a moment and look around, you're going to see law enforcement all the way around. You're going to see law enforcement all the way back, your family in blue. You're going to see people that have come that don't have a clue who Jason is. This is how God shows up. We call it the incarnation. God shows up in the lives of people, incarnate, embodied in people that are here. How do I know that Christ will see you through? I look around and Christ is already here, living in and through each one of these people. I am confident that Christ will see you through. For a moment, I want to just speak to those of you who are law enforcement who came to be with Rachel and her family this day. Thank you for being here. It's a moving thing to see all of you here. Rachel appreciates your presence. Your presence here is a sign of your commitment to each other. That when one falls, together you rise. This is what you do. This is who you are. As Chief Todd said, this is your calling. You see, I believe that what you do, it matters. I believe that what you do is kingdom work. You put on your uniform every time you go to work, knowing that it puts you in harm's way. You put your uniform on and you do the job that God has called you to do because you are all about making bad situations better, about protecting communities, and about helping people, even if it costs you your life. I know that you don't hear this nearly enough. We are grateful for your service. Thank you. Like you, Jason knew that putting on his uniform meant putting himself in harm's way. On that Wednesday night, shots were fired, Jason was hit, and Jason died. That shot was a senseless act of violence. Violence has become, I think, all too common in our world today. And I don't know about you, but I tire of it. I tire of hearing stories about children being shot in schools. I tire about hearing about partygoers being shot in clubs, about diners being shot in restaurants, about moviegoers being shot in theaters, about people being shot on the street, about police officers being executed in their squads. And I'm sure that there's going to be people who are going to bring out this thing and say, you know, we ought to have more guns on the street. And we're going to have another group of people that say we need to have less guns on the street. I want to say to you that if Jesus was here, I think he would say something different, because Jesus has actually spoken about violence. Here's what Jesus said. He said, out of your heart comes evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, slander. So I think what Jesus is saying is that the root of all of these behaviors, the root of violence, it's in here. It's our heart. Our nation has a heart problem, a spiritual problem. Instead of seeking God's ways, we seek our own ways. Instead of serving people, we use people. Instead of being caring and compassionate, we're often judging and condemning. Instead of forgiving, we hold tightly to our resentment and we seek to get even and to get revenge. Instead of being kind-hearted, we are often mean-spirited. Instead of being respectful, we are often rude. Friends, this is not the way of Christ. Our world is a mess because our hearts are a mess. I think what we need to do is we need to pray the prayer that the psalmist prayed. Create in me, O God, a clean heart, and put within me a new and right spirit. The violence in our world will only grow less as our hearts turn toward God more. And that begins with you and me letting God into our hearts and letting God change us from the inside out so that we're more loving, more compassionate, more understanding, more patient, more respectful. See, I think we owe it to Jason to examine our hearts and to look at our ways so that we no longer bring harm to people physically or emotionally. This is how we end violence. This is how we honor Jason. We honor him by changing our hearts so that what flows out of us is good and right and just and loving. And as that stuff flows out of us, what happens is it changes the lives of others. And then those people change the lives of others. And little by little, day by day, the world changes and the kingdom of God comes on earth as it is in heaven. That's our hope. We do not grieve as people without hope. We have hope that the world can change and be a better place as we change our hearts. We have hope that Jason is not dead, but he is alive. That yes, his body has died, but his spirit has soared to be with God in heaven. To believe this is to be people of hope. And so today I give thanks for Jason's life and for his life that he now lives with God in heaven. Will you pray with me, please? God of life, we are a people of hope because you, Lord, are the one who brings life out of death. We are grateful for Jason's life with us, for his laughter, for his joy, for his friendship, for his love. We give thanks. For all the ways that he blessed people and made life better for others, we are grateful. God, you promise that all who believe will find a home with you that is greater than anything we can ever imagine. We come trusting today in this promise that out of death comes life. And we affirm our faith in you and in the promise of the resurrection to eternal life. We believe, Lord, that Jason is with you, living eternally in your home, a place prepared just for him. As we let Jason go, placing him in your arms, we pray that you would comfort our sorrow, heal our hurt, and deepen our faith in you. We pray for Jason's family, for his wife Rachel, his stepchildren Jolie and Dylan, for his mother and his father, for his brother and sister, and for their families, that you would sustain them with your healing presence and touch them, Lord, with your grace. We pray for the Fargo Police Department, whose grief is as deep as any. May your grace be ever upon them to bring comfort and healing. We pray for law enforcement everywhere, that they may be strengthened in their resolve to serve and protect. May you grant them courage in the midst of fear and wisdom in difficult situations. Uphold all of us this day who grieve and remind us, Lord, of the very preciousness of life, that we might live each day as if it were our last. And help us, Lord, to change our world by changing our hearts, so that with each act of love, your kingdom may come on earth and our world will become a safer place for all. In the name of Jesus, who opened wide the doors of heaven that all may enter. Amen.
When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can
I promised that I would get through this part. From here on out, I'm going to be a mess. So it will be with the resurrection of the dead. The body that is sown is perishable, it is raised imperishable. It is sown in dishonor, it is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. For it is sown a natural body, and it is raised a spiritual body. If there is a natural body, there is also a spiritual one. So it's written, the first man, Adam, became a living being, and the last Adam, a life-giving spirit. The spiritual did not come first, but the natural, and after that the spiritual. The first man was of the dust of the earth, and the second man from heaven. As was the earthly man, so are those who are of the earth, and as is the man from heaven, so also are those who are from heaven. And just as we have borne the likeness of the earthly man, so shall we bear the likeness of the man from heaven. I declare to you, brothers and sisters, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, nor does the perishable inherit the imperishable. For the perishable must clothe itself with the imperishable, and the mortal with immortality. When the perishable has been clothed with the imperishable, and the mortal with immortality, then the saying that is written will come true: death has been swallowed up in victory. Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? The sting of death is sin, and the power of sin is the law. But thanks be to God, He gives us the victory through Jesus Christ our Lord. Jason, my brother and my friend, we commend you into God's care in the sure and certain hope of the resurrection to eternal life through Christ our Lord. In your body we commit to the earth from which it came, dust to dust, earth to earth, and ashes to ashes. And now, with the confidence of all God's children, let's pray as Jesus taught. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I have a couple of announcements to share with you, please. In a few moments, the religious part of the service will come to a close, and Jason will receive both law enforcement and military rights. With those rights will come a gun volley, which we wanted you to be aware of that will be happening. And the gun volley will be coming from my left up here, so that you, when you hear that, you know, or are at least prepared for that. Please remain seated until you are ushered out. And finally, I'm a motorcyclist, as was Jason, and he has his gunslingers here with him, right? And if you ride motorcycle, one of your favorite songs has got to be Bon Jovi's Wanted Dead or Alive. That's what Jason wanted. He didn't have anything else to tell us about what he wanted, but he said, make sure they play Wanted Dead or Alive when we walk out. So you're going to hear Wanted Dead or Alive. Will you please stand? Jason, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. And may God give you all that same peace as you go forth. Remember, life is fragile. Love the people you love and show them every day. And be people of hope that this world can change if we change. As you go, may the blessings of God, our Father, Son, and Holy Spirit be with you now and always. Amen. Please remain standing as the colors are retired.
Lincoln 1 Central, conduct a status check of the Fargo officers.
Central Zebra 11 status check.
Zebra 11, code 4.
Central Zebra 23 status check.
Zebra 23, code 4.
Zebra 32 status check.
Zebra 32, code 4.
Zebra 41 status check.
Zebra 41, code 4.
Edward 9 status check.
Edward 9, code 4.
Edward 111 status check.
Edward 111, code 4.
Edward 211 status check.
Edward 211, code 4.
Edward 311 status check.
Edward 311, code 4.
Edward 112 status check.
Edward 112, code 4.
Edward 212 status check.
Edward 212, code 4.
Edward 113 status check.
Edward 113, code 4.
Edward 213 status check.
Edward 213, code 4.
Edward 121 status check.
Edward 121, code 4.
Edward 221 status check.
Edward 221, code 4.
Edward 122 status check.
Edward 122, code 4.
Edward 222 status check.
Edward 222, code 4.
Edward 322 status check.
Edward 322, code 4.
Edward 123 status check.
Edward 123, code 4.
Edward 223 status check.
Edward 223, code 4.
Edward 131 status check.
Edward 131, code 4.
Edward 231 status check.
Edward 231, code 4.
Edward 132 status check.
Edward 132, code 4.
Edward 232 status check.
Edward 232, code 4.
Edward 133 status check.
Edward 133, code 4.
Edward 233 status check.
Edward 233, code 4.
Edward 241 status check.
Edward 241, code 4.
Edward 142 status check.
Edward 142, code 4.
Edward 242 status check.
Edward 242, code 4.
Edward 243 status check.
Edward 243, code 4.
Edward 143 status check. Edward 143 status check. Last call, Edward 143 status check.
Adam 1 Central, Edward 143 is 1042, end of watch, February 11th, 2016 at 12:45 hours.
Bye.